last Friday's webinar, we threw a football to each other, an imaginary football. So I had the football and I said, I'm Matilda. My discipline is English. My college is Palo Alto. And I have the ball, and whoever I throw it to, you have to pretend like you're going to catch it. So I'm going to throw the ball to Lisa. Let's see if she catches it. Is she going to fumble? Good catch. And then Lisa introduces herself with her name, discipline, college. Go ahead.
The ball to Dr. Hernandez.
You're muted, John. And I wanted to do this with everybody, but I'm concerned about time because we only have 45 minutes and I don't want to take away from the content. But welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to share my screen now. And today's session, we're focusing on mindfulness. So getting our students to think about thinking, slowing down, and really being present in the classroom. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides? Perfect. If we had more time, we would do more introductions, but we don't. So I'm going to jump into the first exercise called class recaps. This is easily customizable for any discipline. And you'll see that I have 3 different exercises I'm going to walk you through. The second exercise is called Rate Your Group and Self-Reflect. And then the third exercise is a mock and get there. So we'll jump into the first exercise. And to start us with this exercise, I want to talk about some of these questions. So if we could answer and have a little discussion. So here are the questions. What are the downsides of students missing class? What typically occurs when students are absent? And what typically do students say when they return to class after being absent? And you can just feel free to unmute your mic.
I will say for number one, one of the downsides I personally see is that students, they will miss information and they will also miss the interactions from their classmates that they can't recapture a lot of times when they do miss the class.
Absolutely.
I didn't know if you wanted me to answer 1 and 2. I just answered 1.
Oh, no worries. It's all good. It doesn't matter.
I'll jump in and say that they lose momentum when they miss class. Like it takes a certain amount of pushing forward to be successful. And, apart from the information loss and anything else, that momentum gets destroyed.
Absolutely. Anybody else? I was going to add that one thing that it used to really get under my skin, but now it makes me giggle. And that's when students return and they say, did I miss anything important? No, you didn't. We looked at memes all day and told jokes. You didn't miss anything important. Yeah, and then Brianda, I thought were you going to unmute your mic and say something?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm really big about is the community that I build in the classroom. So I feel like a lot of students miss that camaraderie. And then just like you said, what do they say when they return? What did I miss? And of course, what did I miss? Did I miss anything that was super important? And I'm just like, everything's important. It's always important. What are you talking about? So yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thank you.
Exactly. So here is an exercise that I've been facilitating, and I want to share it with you all because I feel that it has really helped my students who are absent, but it also helps my students who are present in class. And this exercise is called the class recap. So every student is responsible for completing this assignment at least once in the semester. And you can facilitate this assignment in any avenue that best suits your teaching. What I use is the Canvas discussion board. And here are the instructions that I post for my students. Every student needs to complete this assignment. We go in alphabetical order, the order presented on the roster. Just copy and paste this template when it's your turn or responsibility to post a class recap. And here's the template for you to copy and paste. So the class recap form, they insert that day's class in the date, and they just in a bulleted list what we did that day. So they just insert our day's activities. And again, they post it on the Canvas discussion board so that all students who are absent can see and view what they posted. I give them some tips, like begin with action verbs that describe the activities we can double check. And the deadline's always the same. It's the same day of the class, anytime before midnight. If I'm getting a notification that my internet is running slow, so if I start lagging or slow or you can't hear me, please let me know, but I just got that little notification and it worried me. So with the class recap, I think what I would like to do is try this out today, right here with us, our group. I'd like somebody to try the class recap. So what that means is you will actually write what we've done so far. And all we've done was I gave an introduction in how I have students or faculty introduce themselves by playing ball and throwing the ball to each other. The second thing we did was we reviewed the agenda. And then the third thing we did is what we're doing now. We reviewed the class recap. So if I went in alphabetical order, I think that is Lisa. Oh, no, Betty. Are you there, Betty?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Your last name starts with an A, so if you were in class, you'd be at the top of the roster. And so at this point, I would say, all right, so the first person on the roster is Betty. That means it's her turn first to do the class recap. And then I would help Betty start the list by recapping so far what we've done. Are you up for the challenge, Betty, to do the class recap? Okay, awesome. And then at the end, we'll go back to Betty's recap and see how she did. It's very simple, low stakes. I reassure students that this is a way to get an easy 100. And when they hear easy 100, their ears perk up. It's like a little carrot I dangle and say, look, just do this and you get 100. And so you get a little bit more buy-in too and engagement from students that way. And what I've found so far is the benefits of this is it requires students to be present in class when it's their turn to write the recap, because they have to be on their toes and they have to be mentally present. They have to stay alert and active. And then for the students who are absent, this is a way for them when they go to the discussion board and see the class recap, this is a way for them to not feel left out or left behind. As Benjamin mentioned, our absent students, when they return, they can lose that momentum. And this helps them to come back and know exactly what they missed. So it allows those absent students to confidently return to class, not feeling out of the loop. And it allows the absent students an opportunity to take accountability for their learning when they can't come to class. And then also, win-win. Oh, did I just quote Franklin Covey? I think I did. But the win-win is that it saves us time. It saves us time. We don't have to consistently repeat over and over what we did in class because their peers already did that on the discussion board. So when students come back and say, Ms. Stout, what did I miss? I'll say, go to the discussion board and read the class recap. You have any thoughts or questions, feedback?
Matilda, I just wanted to say, if you absolutely need to, you can turn off your video if that makes you feel more confident. So I just wanted to, I don't think any of us would mind.
Oh, are you referring
for your internet issues?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the way I looked. Like, if you're not very confident, you can turn your camera off. I was like, oh, I like the way I look. Okay, all right, then that I will do that then. Thanks, Julie. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat, And Benjamin says, I write up recaps and posts, much better to outsource to students. Yes, make them accountable for their learning. Absolutely. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yes. What do you do when students have dropped and it would have been their turn? And what do you do if there's less students than the number of class meetings you're going to have?
When someone has been dropped and is no longer in the class, I'll just skip right past them and go to the next one. And then when it's, like you said, more class dates than students on the roster, I'll go back to the top. No, I'm sorry. I'll go back to those who didn't complete it, because the ugly truth is, as you know, some students still don't do it. Even though it's their turn, they won't do it. So it gives them a second chance to actually complete the assignment if they missed it when it was their turn the first time.
What do you do for those days where a student decided not to do it?
That's a good question. I do have students who follow up and say, Ms. Stout, I was absent. I tried to go to the discussion board and read the class recap, but there was nothing there. And I use that moment as a teaching moment, and I'll say it out loud as a whole class discussion. And I won't call the person out by their name. They know who they are. But let's say it was Michael, and like you said, it was his turn, but he didn't do it. I'll use it as a teaching moment and say, somebody didn't do it. So let's all together help out our friend who didn't do it, and let's jog our memories and try to remember, what was it? What did we do? What did we do last class? And with the projector face-to-face, that was easy for me because I could just type it as the students are telling me. But with the Zoom class, I can still do that. I could just pull up and share my screen and type it, but I'll let each of them contribute. So it's also beneficial because it requires all the other students to remember what we did. And it, I think, really aids in a nice class discussion too, because also course material is being reinforced as we're all talking about it, what we did last class.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, if there's nothing else anyone wants to add, I'm going to go to my next slide. This is the second exercise I want to introduce to you. But before I introduce it to you, I want to have a little discussion. What is the number one complaint from students when assigned group work? Why do students dislike it? And you can even think back to when you were in college. Did you like group work or dislike it? Why?
Complaint that I hear all the time is that, it's usually one student or two students carrying the group. Everybody's not doing their part.
I think I heard you, Kelly, you said that not everybody does their part.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and there's a lot of the same comments coming through in chat too. Students don't pull their weight. It's a pain to negotiate the relationships. The students that don't participate or the ones who dominate. Not everyone contributes equally. For online classes, trying to find a time to meet, and it is like pulling teeth to get them. Yeah, I completely agree with you. So here's one thing. I'm reading, Nicole, some don't know what they should be doing or how to divvy up the work. Yes. Yeah, right? It can be a complete mess. So here's one thing that I do. Prior to assigning the group work, I let them know in advance that they will rate each other. And these are the same assignment instructions I give them. And so when they know in advance that their group members will rate them, it sort of pushes them to rise to the occasion and put their best foot forward. So I write in the instructions, think about how you would rate or grade your group members. How would you rate their performance? Type their names and next to each name, give them a grade from 0 to 100. Now explain why you assigned those grades, based on what. You should consider their participation, contribution to the workload, and anything else they did or did not contribute. And I reassure them that it's a safe place because all of their responses are kept private and they're only for my eyes. And I let them know, please, I'm relying on you and your honesty to give me that special privy or insight into the group's dynamics. So before I show you the benefits of this assignment, I'm going to jump ahead and show you an actual student example of students who rated their group members. So this student here says, the reason I assigned a 100 to Victoria is because she was excellent at presenting and was talking clearly. And when it was her time to work on the presentation, she helped and came up with ideas and edited half the slides for me. For Brianna V, she knew that we had to work on the presentation, and we all had agreed on a date to work on it. But when the time came, she said she was out of town and that she was busy and didn't understand it, because why set up a date and not show, especially for schoolwork? But me and Victoria had already finished the PowerPoint. We tried to give her some time and we told her to come up with some questions, and she never came to it, so we just finished. I feel me and Victoria didn't do anything wrong. Like, we took charge and we all assigned who gets to do what to make it equal, so no one would have to do more than others. But it just ended up being only 2 people to do all the work. I don't know if this would sound harsh, but what if it was just me and Victoria in one group? But I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So what this did for me, what this provided for me, was it made first off, it made the students aware prior that their peers will be grading them. But it also gives them an opportunity to vent or praise. And we saw that in the student example. She both was venting her aggravation, but also praising her other group member. This assignment allowed me to better understand my students. I knew that she was coming from a good place. She was trying her best, but she felt frustrated because, as some of you mentioned in chat, some group members don't pull their own weight. And this allowed me to further humanize my students. They're not just bodies in a desk, but I've been there too, and it made me really understand. And then again, it gave me that special privy into the group dynamics. I want to jump ahead though and show you the student she was talking about, the one that she was saying didn't pull her work. So this was her opportunity to tell me what was going on. She says, and this is Brianna V that she was saying didn't show up, didn't do her part, would make plans, but then would flake. And this is what she had to say. I had so much going on with my family, from losing a family member due to COVID, to dealing with the guilt of not being able to attend rosary or funeral. And just having to be on Zoom with the rest of my family was very hard. She keeps talking about the paper here. I have been procrastinating a lot due to personal issues as well, and taking the loss of a family member very hard. So you'll see as well that when we allow students the opportunity to reflect on their experience on an assignment, what it does is I don't have to make any assumptions about Brianna and or make the assumption that she's just blowing off the work. When we give them the platform or the opportunity to share what was going on with them at that time, as I mentioned, it helps us further humanize our students too. What are your thoughts about this? I'd like to make this session not just about me telling you what I do, but I respect and value my colleagues, and I really would love to learn from you guys too. So if you see areas where I can improve or change, Monique, are you going to say something?
Yes, I actually was just going to add, so typically when I have like my students do group assignments, I do kind of, I lack of better word in the moment, kind of like a two-level um, assessment. So basically what I will do is I will ask them to rate like all the members in the group, but then I also have them rate themselves. And it's interesting to kind of see the difference between sometimes how the group rates everyone versus how they rate themselves. Like sometimes I've had students who are like, well, I did everything. I was awesome in the group. And then the rest of the group members were like, well, this individual rarely attended meetings. And so it's kind of interesting to see sometimes the disparities between how they rate themselves versus how the group rates them. And then I also kind of emphasize sometimes too that everybody in the group may not end up getting the same exact grades, especially if it is deemed that, hey, you really didn't pull your weight. And so a lot of times, like when we were in the classroom, I would set aside time to also see how they were working with one another as well too, to just get an idea. But I do love what you have, because like you said, it's always great to learn from our colleagues and what they're doing in the classroom.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you. I like that. Casey?
I really like the essay assignment you attached to it for self-reflection. I hadn't thought of that, and I really like it. I have a two-part rubric for all group work and presentations because that's usually where the group work leads in my class. And there's like a group cumulative grade, and then there's individual grades. So my overachievers don't hyperventilate, and my underachievers don't affect my overachievers' grades. So they know up front, like, this is what you get graded on as a group. You're in this together, but here's your individual presentation grades. I can tell if you're not on top of your game here. But that self-reflection essay, I'm totally stealing it. I love that idea.
Cool, yeah. And what Casey is referring to, I'll show you that again. I asked them to be honest and tell me where are they in their process with the paper or with any assignment. As I mentioned earlier, these can be easily customized for any discipline that is taught. And here is where she mentions, I think I have all requirements for the paper, but I need to complete one last paragraph and look my essay over to be sure. And the reason I started having students reflect between drafts is because typically what we do is we have them reflect after the fact, after they've turned in an assignment. What did you think? How did you do? What was difficult? What was hard? But I feel that it's more beneficial if we have them reflect in between the parts, in between drafts, or not just at the end after they've turned it in, but as a way to track their progress throughout. For sure. And I was looking at Sylvia's question, or no, Rosie's question, how do you assign a grade when they assess one another? I do a lot of low stakes assignments so that they are encouraged to get the work done. And so when I say low stakes assignments, I mean a lot of assignments that require minimal work, but they can easily earn a 100. So if they simply answer all of the questions, I give them a 100 full credit. And I do that a lot because once they see little gains, like they realize, I can do this thing called college. I can do this thing called Composition 1 or Miss Scout's class. Look at this. I'm getting all these hundreds. I'm just doing the work. I'm just doing what she asked me to do, and I'm getting these grades. Of course, that's not for all assignments. You know, the bigger essays or research papers. Dr. Jones, I see your hand is raised.
One thing that I like to do for group work, because I historically, I didn't like it as a student, but I do a lot of role play games and things like that. So I always have them, first thing out of the gate is they all pick a role. And it's a role that produces something. Like they all have to be actively engaged in that way. And there's also different roles, which makes it so if they can maybe find something that they're more comfortable with. But that's definitely having clearly defined roles for each of them has really helped. And then I also really pay attention in those first maybe 1 or 2 assignments and kind of figure out how to like kind of spread out the stronger people, and maybe spread out the ones who are weaker on participation. You don't want to have a group that's super duper stacked, and then the whole group feels behind. So I am kind of taking notes as I'm observing the class when they're doing the work, and just kind of saying, all right, who should I maybe clump together in the future that might be a good mix for a particular assignment.
That's a really good point, because somebody had mentioned in chat one reason why students dislike group work is because there's often a dominant person. And so if in the beginning, as you mentioned, you identify the different roles, or you identify the different strengths and weaknesses, and students are real quick to tell you when you ask, how are you typically in a group setting or dynamic? Are you typically the leader, or are you the jokester? Are you the person who builds community? Are you the person who plans? Are you better by at just someone telling you what to do and you can get the work done? And then if you can identify the roles and their strengths and weaknesses, it's like intelligent design. You're being very intentional about how you're putting the groups together, and that makes a big difference.
And I'm sorry to chime in again, but one of the things that I really think has helped is when I have those very dominant students, I'll take them aside before or after class and say, look, I see you, you're killing it, you're doing a great job. I want you to hold back today. I want you to even if it's silent for like a minute, get comfortable with it. Let other people talk. And don't feel, because I'm that student, don't feel like you have to fill the silence. Like I am asking you to do it, so it's not going to hurt your participation. Like your participation grade is letting others talk today. And that's always gone well. Students love to feel like you see them and how hard they're working. So I've never had anyone get upset about being told, hey, you're so amazing, you don't have to talk today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like Aurora's contribution to chat too. She said that she has the groups give weekly updates of what they've done. That's another great way to have them hold themselves accountable too. I'm going to go back to my slides. Julie, will you give me a time check? How much time is left?
We're at 10:44, so about 15 minutes.
Okay, we have 15 more minutes. All right. So here is I'm getting there. Another part of self-reflection is not just having students reflect on each other and grade each other, but also I want their feedback on my assignment design. I would like to know, how did I do in creating this assignment? So instead of waiting for the end of the semester when students evaluate their instructors, I ask them throughout the semester after a major assignment. I will say, what did you like about this assignment? What did you dislike about this assignment? I just found the slide right here. I'm going to pull it up here so I can show you. What did you like about this assignment? What were some positives? What did you dislike? What were the negatives? And here's one of my students' response. He said, the thing I disliked about this assignment was that we didn't get enough information on how we could have done the assignment. We didn't know we could use Google Slides, and it had us have a hard time on how to make our presentation fun and creative. Because I kept telling them, make it fun and creative, fun and creative. One negative is that we didn't have much time outside of class to help each other out, because some of them work or have other classes the same day. One downside is that the breakout room before the presentation, we didn't seem to have enough time to help each other out. So again, taking the focus away from one another, and now they're turning the focus on me and how I designed and facilitated the assignment. And when I read that student response, I thought, you know what? He's right. I just said, make your presentation fun and creative. But what I could have done was been much more specific about how they could do that. And so the different avenues or internet tools or resources to have a fun and creative presentation in Zoom. And then I also, this student response made me reflect on how much time I gave them. And hindsight is 2020. In retrospect, yes, I really didn't give them enough time. And I probably wasn't as considerate as I could have been about their other responsibilities, other classes, as he mentioned, or having to work. So before they went live with the presentations, I did put them in a breakout room to do a quick huddle. And even in that time, as he mentioned, it wasn't very much time. So allowing them to not just assess and reflect on their group members' work, but also on me, has helped me tremendously to improve how I facilitate different assignments. Rather than, like I said, waiting for the end of the semester student surveys or the dreaded ratemyprofessor.com. When you go to ratemyprofessor.com and you see what students really think or how students really feel about you, I have them tell me during class time as short mini assignments. And again, I grade this as the same, easy 100, low stakes, just do it and you get the work done. And it mentioned, as Dr. Jones mentioned, students like to feel seen, and this gives them the opportunity to know that their voice matters and that I care what they have to say and that I value what they have to say and what they think about the assignment.
Matilda, I have a question.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
do that for all of your assignments or your major assignments, like presentations that you ask for that sort of feedback?
It depends, honestly. It depends on if I'm feeling like they're unsure or if I'm feeling that everyone's kind of shaky. I want to delve deeper into that. I can just sort of sense, you can sense the vibe or the energy in the room. And those are the times that I just have them tell me the truth. What do you think about this assignment? I'll give you another example. Last semester was the first, or actually fall 2020. So I guess that was last semester. I facilitated a new unit I had never facilitated before, and it was on the Black Lives Matter movement. And it was obviously tense, a lot of the discussions we had in class. And it always felt sort of, like I said, just tense in the room. So at that point, that was my marker to go ahead and facilitate this assignment. That was my cue that I need to know what they're really thinking about all of these conversations we're having about police brutality or police abusing power. And so I asked them to tell me, what do you like about this? What do you dislike? And the responses were really interesting. Some of them said, it's a bummer, Ms. Stout. I'm seeing police abuse power all the time in not only my social media feeds, but on TV. I see it everywhere. And then I have to come to your class and talk about it more. So it depends. To answer your question, I read the room, so to speak. I read the room, and that tells me when I should ask for how they're feeling about it. Any thoughts or anything you want to add about any of this?
I sometimes ask students how they're feeling about an assignment especially if it's a new assignment that I've developed and worked on, and I don't have a lot of track record with it. And also, like a lot of my major assignments, I'll ask for feedback. Like I'll send maybe like a survey to the students and really get their feedback on it, because if it's not sitting well with them or like they're not really learning what I think they should be, taking away from it, I need to know that. So that's kind of like how I'll do it too.
It helps. It's really helpful, I think. So what I did with those responses from the students who said it's a bummer having to talk about police murdering people. I turned it around and used it as a positive. I instead focused on different areas in our city where they can directly get involved. So I said, if you're really feeling the angst, and it's understandable, we're all feeling the angst and the anger. But here's what we can do. Here's the positive thing. And there's a website called fixsapd.org where they can volunteer. It gives a list of different protests. So when they're feeling like it's a real bummer to talk about these really heavy topics, I'll use it as a moment to say, but you can do something to change it. You can find out who represents you. You can find out who's your city council person or who's your representative, and you can do things to write to them and make changes. So it helps so much to get their feedback on the assignments because you know how to then pivot and make it into a positive to push them to action and to take ownership of their own learning. I'm going to move on to the last assignment I want to share. And if you want to interrupt, please do so anytime. Oh, Dr. Jones, go ahead. Right on cue. Oh, sorry. She says sorry. Okay, no worries, no worries. Yeah, if you want to interrupt at any time, please do. I'd rather make this a conversation rather than me talking. I know we're running out of time too, so let me get through this quick. This is the mock AA meeting. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see exercise 3 discussion? Thanks, John. So when you return students' work and you've written in-depth comments, you've written detailed comments about their work, what do they typically do with your thorough feedback? You've taken like a good 15 minutes to really let them know their areas for improvement, or you've given thorough comments and feedback. How do they behave when you return the work, or what's the vibe like in the room?
Well, I mean, it's a fun opportunity to kind of control the vibe. I generally just grade on Canvas, and then, you know, they will come in the next day and they've seen their grades. And at that point, I try to pump them up and say, hey, everybody got it submitted or whatever. So it's a good opportunity to, you know, when people are really paying attention.
Yeah, it is. It's such a prime opportunity. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. So, okay, Nicole says crickets, no responses, or they usually don't read it. It is a bummer. It breaks all of our teachers' hearts because it's like, no, I've given you valuable information, and now you're just sticking your work in your folder and not looking at it. Or they just look at the grade and put it aside. Nicole says, I have very few who get excited about exactly right. Me too. So here's what I devised, and I hope you enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with it. This is our mock AA meeting, okay? This is where we all take the time to stand up one by one and confess and make it known that we have a problem. So when I give them back their work, I tell them, here are the instructions. Take the time to really read and digest the comments I wrote about your assignment. You need to comprehend the feedback I provided you. So I'll usually give them a good solid 10 to 12 minutes to do that. Then they need to make a short list of their common mistakes. In other words, they have to diagnose themselves. What are they struggling with? What's giving them difficulty? And this is also for a grade. Again, one of those low stakes, easy 100s. What are they doing well? So that it's not just focusing on what they did wrong, but they also need to give themselves props for what they're doing well. But then what about the ones who didn't even do the assignment? You know, when you're passing back work and then there's a student who doesn't get anything back because they didn't do it, well, they still have an opportunity to participate. If you didn't complete this assignment and therefore have no feedback, make a short list about why you didn't complete it. What obstacles or challenges are preventing you from completing your assignments? So again, we have some metacognition here, enforcing thinking about thinking. And this is the fun part. Once they diagnose themselves, this is where we hold the mock AA meeting. We sit in a circle. I'll move the desks around. It's fun when we're face to face because we'll actually move the desk. We'll take turns telling our stories. But I always go first. So I'll share my weakness first, and you can do this for whatever discipline you teach. And this is the fun part. I'll say, hi, my name is Matilda. And what does everyone else say at the same time?
Hi, Matilda.
Hi, Matilda.
Good. Now we know who the alcoholics are in the room. They know. Just kidding. Yes, everyone says, hi, Matilda. And that's, we all laugh and we giggle. And then I'll say, I am a comma abuser. I tend to overuse commas, or I don't place them in the place that they're supposed to be in. And then, so then we'll take turns. So then maybe another student will stand up. Hi, I'm Derek. Hi, Derek. I always forget to introduce my quote. I forget, before I quote, I don't state the author's full name, or I don't state the source's full title in quotation marks. And it really is a community building exercise because we're laughing, but we're also all making ourselves vulnerable at the same time. It is a very vulnerable exercise. So when everyone's vulnerable, open, and honest, we build community in the classroom. And then for those students who didn't complete the assignment, they're given the chance to have a hard talk or realization with themselves about their time management or other factors that need to change so that they are able to meet deadlines. Once students can admit that they have a, quote, problem, then they can work on improving it. So part of this is not just diagnosing what they're doing wrong, but a big part of this exercise is also giving them the resources and letting them know where they can go to help improve. It teaches students that making mistakes is how we learn, that it's okay to make mistakes. And when we normalize mistakes, it encourages a growth mindset. It shows each other that we're not alone in making mistakes. We're all learning this together. Again, it pushes them to be present or mindful with their own learning. It allows them to walk away with a clear plan of action. Like they know, they've diagnosed themselves and they know exactly what their issue is. But then also it gives us faculty peace of mind knowing that students are aware of their areas for improvement. So it makes me feel better knowing, okay, good, nice. Jason knows that he struggles with fragments or whatever the issue is. Anything anybody wants to add? I'm looking at the chat. It feels defeating when you work so hard on the comments and the students don't participate. It does, right? And then Kezia put the survey there. Thanks, Kelly. She said, I really like this activity. It will work in my social work classes. Yeah, for sure. I think it can be customized. Nice. Thanks, Benjamin. And just to wrap things up, remember that we had Betty. Betty is our class recap for today. Betty's going to walk through. What did we do today, Betty?
Okay. So we talked about a lot of, I really want to say thank you for all the information that you gave us today. I've learned so much just by all the stuff that you taught us today. It's just stuff that we do, and I think I take for granted, stuff that we do on a daily basis. So what we covered today was like the talking about, how we can, what works and what doesn't work with our, when we assign students to do group activities. We talked about being looking at our students, paying attention as to which are the ones that are stronger students and providing a mixture of students to work together so one doesn't feel outweighed more than the other. We did talk about like the self-reflection, what did you, asking the students what they liked or disliked about a certain assignment. maybe about a group activity that they had to do. Let me see. We talked about discussing questions. Let me see. Discussing the discussion questions of what do students do when we return their assignments with the instructor's comments on them. You know, I think that's actually a really good idea, is because a lot of times we do, and I've had that situation where we do get returned those assignments and there's, you know, no comment or anything, but yet students, they still do tend to have questions and they're just afraid to ask. So asking them, it's like, you know, what did you learn? You know, why, you know, the big question is like, Miss, is this what you gave me? And I'm like, no, I don't give grades. That's actually the grade you earned, you know, so.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Betty. It's 11 people have to go, but I just want to say one quick thing. Betty did a great job. We're going to give snaps to Betty. Thanks so much, Betty. And also, really quickly, you can do this too at the end of the class. You can say, okay, it was Martha's turn to do the class recap. Martha, really quickly run through what did we do today, and we can help chime in and help with whatever they miss on the class recap.
Let's give Matilda a round of applause. She was an awesome presenter, and she has so many great ideas, and it's so great to share, you know, what teachers at our own colleges are doing. You know, we're all colleagues. So Matilda, thank you from the Teaching and Learning Center at PAC, and thank you for all the work you do with our students.
For sure, no doubt. Thanks, guys, for coming. Namaste. Bye.
Bye.